If it's not written, it's not real. Hi, everybody. We are Mike and Brenda Baker, and today we are talking about who gets what, estate planning for blended families.
Okay, so estate planning for blended families carries its own set of things. And we decided to talk about this because there are some things that I just don't think that we think about as couples. So, for one, I want to put a disclaimer here. This is not legal advice. These are things that we've noticed, things that we ourselves are planning for, things that we have researched, but it is not legal advice. We are not telling you to do one thing or another. We are simply having a conversation about things you might want to consider in your blended family, things you might not have thought about. All right? Things that you might want to go look at. Not legal advice. Yes?
Right.
Yes. So, with that, how do you protect everyone you love without creating sides? Well, that's difficult. I mean, you know, most couples care about their kids. Okay, now normally across the board, we will always tell you it's a family. Quit thinking of it as anything else. Your kids are your kids, whether they're the bio kids or the step kids. They're all your kids. It's your household. You are a family. Okay, just because you're not a regular family and you're a blended family, you're still a family. Those rules still apply. This is probably the only time, or one of the very few times, you will hear us discuss the difference between bio kids and step kids. Okay, because there are, quite honestly, there are times when bio kids are going to get things that step kids don't, and you can't do anything about that. Okay, you may be required by the court to do something, in that line. What we want to encourage is that if it's something that you can leave to all the children, that is something you should do. This whole, well, I'm only leaving my money to my kids and your kids are out of luck, that's not a family. And if that was your intent going in, why'd you get married? What's the point? You weren't, you were, let me be just perfectly blunt. You were looking for sex and you weren't looking for a family. Okay, you weren't looking for a spouse. You were looking for somebody to satisfy you. That's really all there is outside of outside of that. Because if you knew there were kids and you weren't willing to take them as a Christian man, you're wrong. All right. So here, when we're talking about this, stepchildren can be legally excluded because they're not your blood. But should you? That's really the real question.
Right. And before I get started, I want to tell you a little story about some people that I knew. They were a blended family, and the husband died unexpectedly. Now they had done some estate planning, but it was not finished by any means. And these people were, they came to the marriage she came to the marriage with quite a bit. And he came to the marriage with a lot of ideas. He had a good education. I'm not saying he didn't have money, but what happened when he passed away unexpectedly was that his kids came after her and they ended up with her house that should have gone to her kids. Now, I'm not saying anything against what Mike just said. I'm telling you a real story of somebody I really knew.
Yeah.
Okay?
And how it actually came down for them.
Yes.
Yes.
And so the issue with this that I've seen a few different times in a few different situations is that if there is not very, very clear, laid out plans, people that are left behind when you're gone will fight about the money, about the stuff, about what they think was theirs, what you told them was theirs, blah, 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 blah. And it's amplified in a blended family. Now, the people that I knew, his kids were some of the most, how do you put it?
Unreasonable.
They were unreasonable, but they also fought tooth and nail. And
Selfish, self-centered, take your pick.
yes. And it was really sad. And it ended up, she had cancer, had been dealing with cancer for a lot of years. And I would say that within about 3 months of him passing away, she passed away
Yeah.
because of the stress that his kids put on her. And it was really a sad deal because she was a beautiful person in her heart. She was just kind and caring and whatever. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, I didn't live with her, so I didn't know, but his kids didn't live with them either. They were all adults when they got married. So think about this before. I always like to tell people before you get married, you need to figure out what's what because arguing happens.
Especially after a death.
Yes. And tensions are high. So don't leave anything to chance. Even the possessions, it needs to be written down in front of a lawyer. All of it has to be a legal document. Now, on the flip side of that, my grandparents were a blended family because my biological grandmother passed away, and then the one that I knew to be my grandma, because obviously I didn't know my biological grandmother. My grandma's husband was killed in World War II. So they both had kids. He had 3, she had 2, and then they got married. And what they chose to do with their blended family is they had extremely clear things written out, but they also had the son of his and her son were the executors of the estate. There was no fighting. There was no arguing about who got what. It was all figured out for them. Okay? And it really helped them in all of the things that they had to do after the parents died. They did not die at the same time, but after my grandpa died, everything was figured out so they didn't even have to deal with that. They knew who was the one that was going to go and do the death certificate. Like everything was figured out. And so I highly encourage you to do that. Set your kids up for success. Because what we've also seen, not even with blended families, but with people who have aged parents who are getting older and older and older, is we've seen a lot of kids have to come in and help their parents financially or whatnot, and there was no plan. Okay. And I saw this a lot when I was in the financial services industry, is people had no plan. And then they would get to their 70s and 80s and they'd be like, well, I guess I should start thinking about this. Well, by then it was too late. So if you do not have life insurance, if you do not have that sort of thing, please find somebody reputable. Find an insurance agent who is reputable that you've gotten referred from somebody else that has used them, and get yourself some insurance. Get your spouse some insurance. Do it all. Okay? Don't wait. The younger you are, the cheaper it is. So that's my plug on that.
That was your free part because none of that's in our notes.
Yeah, exactly. I went completely
Off
rogue.
Okay, so let me approach something right quick that's kind of off to the side. A lot of you may notice that I cross my arms when I'm doing this. It's not a negative thing. I know people are super sensitive to body language these days. I have shoulder problems from the military, and when I cross my arms, it actually relieves pressure on my right shoulder. So please don't look into it, because I know a lot of people I can't tell you how many times people, Mike, why are you crossing your arms?
Why are you so crappy?
Why are you so grumpy? It's like, no, I'm just relieving pressure on my right shoulder. I'll move around a lot just because of that. So anyway, with that, what I had last said was that your stepchildren can be excluded. So we're still on our first point, but we're moving into our second point, which is your verbal promises mean nothing. Whatever you decided around the dinner table, judge doesn't care. Yeah. Court doesn't care. And whatever relatives are coming after, whoever's left, don't care. Okay, one of the many things that Brenda's grandparents did was they started asking the kids what it was they wanted in the house. And so they would actively go around the house and write their names on the back, like say it was a portrait or say it was an armoire or a dresser or something. If anybody wanted it, then the name of the person that was going to get it was on the back, and I believe that was in the will as well. It was. So we anticipated, to be perfectly honest, I anticipated problems when the last grandparent passed away, and amazingly enough, there really wasn't.
No
Because
problems.
it was laid out so well. Now, Brenda said write everything down in front of a lawyer. You don't have to write it down in front of a lawyer, but you do need to have something written by the lawyer based on what you and your spouse have sat down at the table and said, this is exactly what we're doing. Okay? It is, I can't tell you how vital it is. Our kids know who the executor is going to be. All right? Now, they tell you typically not to pick one of your own kids as an executor. In our particular situation, we have a different dynamic in our family, and we're able to do that. And the other boys know. They know who the executor is going to be. And it's our goal to make sure that, okay, there's a few things in play here. So my dad passed away 92, 93, I think. Brenda's dad passed away about 7 years ago, right?
Yep.
My mom walked away, so that's irrelevant. And Brenda's mom is aging, and it will fall on us to take care of her.
Yep.
So things to think about. Now, I'm 55 years old, and some of you, maybe a lot of you, are thinking to yourself, I don't have any life insurance. Now, let me be perfectly blunt. When I had $250,000 in life insurance when I was in the military that didn't cost much because I was in the military. And then when I retired, it went through the roof. My payment quadrupled, and my coverage dropped to maybe 20% of what it was. Okay, so I had probably enough. I had probably enough to cover the funeral and maybe a couple months worth of bills for her, and that was it. Because she doesn't. I mean, she's a stay-at-home for the most part. She has the flexibility. Yes, we don't have kids anymore, but she's working on this, and she's working on another business that we're trying to get off the ground as well. But the point is recently I got life insurance. So my point here is at 55 I was able to get life insurance. Some of the rules had loosened up.
Yeah.
Because some of you, to be perfectly honest, are going to run into ridiculous rules when it comes into life insurance. But anyway, so I've kind of run the gambit a little bit. But the point is verbal, no good. I don't care what Aunt May said to her niece or whatever. When she passes, verbal means nothing. They don't care. So things to think about on point 2 here is if it's not legally documented, it won't hold up. So check in your state. Some states allow only written wills. Some states allow written and video wills. Some states allow other things as well. Some states are a lot more lenient. If you don't have a will, the state will take your stuff and disperse it as they see fit, based on whoever comes and makes claims on it as well. And you might think, well, the state will be fair. What rock have you been living under? The state's not going to be fair. The state's going to do what's best for the state. Because when the state has to handle it, they want their portion, right? You need to know what your inheritance taxes are. You need to know, we've talked about, is this where we have the trust? Yeah. Wills are good, I've heard, but trusts are better. Now, I'm not going to sit here and give you information on trust because I have not delved deeply enough into that, but I do know there are a number of people who will put everything into a trust so that they can bypass some things when it comes to probate. Now, I don't know that, but I have seen a huge push towards trusts. But at the bare minimum, you need a legal document. My suggestion, my preference would be a video to go with your document so that you, in this format, can then convey to whoever's listening exactly what you meant. Because who better than from you? You know, if it says, I want this person to get this, in the video you're like, no, I promised this to them when we had this conversation and that's what I want. You know, so it gives the court more explanation. Did you have something you want to add there?
Well, I think that let's go back to the life insurance part again. The reason being is you know, it depends on how old your children are if you were to pass away, and you do have to plan for the worst and hope for the best, right? And I'm not saying you should dwell there, but if you've got young children that you're currently paying child support for, I would highly encourage you to get a life insurance policy that goes directly to them. It'll go into a trust for them. because if you're not there anymore, then your children do need to be taken care of. Whether or not your ex is going to do this or that, like, that's for you to figure out. But there are lots of ways to be able to have money available for the kids, and have less involvement of your ex-spouse. Another thing to think about is if you were both to die, say in a car accident, and there's bad blood between the kids, your kids and your
Stepkids.
spouse's kids, you want everything figured out, because
Spelled
if you
out.
yeah, because if you have, even if you have an executor, sometimes they can get a hold of everything because it's their job to hand over whatever to whichever family member or whatever. And so have that figured out. Have the least amount of exchange of actual money, the better, because then you can make sure that after your death, people get what you want them to get, when it comes to the money. Because I've seen a lot of people have issues with the executor just blowing the money. So that is something to think about as well. Now, not to bring you to the negative, because our channel is all about helping you to move forward in the best way possible. But if you don't know these things, if you haven't seen these things or had anything to do with these
Yeah.
types of situations, that's why we're telling you what we're telling you. And so, this is maybe a negative topic, but it is something that we all have to be honest about. At some point, we're all going to pass away. And so have the best plan that you possibly can. Still, things might go wrong. It's not going to matter at that point, but do your best, okay? So that's all.
So let me touch on something here. There's a lot of silliness and stupidity, really, that happens in this arena. For one, the atypical is, okay, well, we need to talk about it, but we've got time. I had a soldier once who would not put a seatbelt on. Now, he and I had a very, very, very strict understanding, because I was his sergeant, that when he was in uniform and in one of these vehicles, if I didn't see a seatbelt on him, I'd smoke him. And he
What
was
does that
actually
mean? People
just
who are
means
not medical.
it means exercise until exhaustion. How's that? So until I'm tired. So the whole point is this: he was very respectful. He was somewhat of an old soul. He was a little rebellious, but he was very respectful of me, and he always followed that. And to be honest, I had other soldiers who would let me know, because he was kind of a braggart about it. Well, everybody, seatbelts are what kills people. Blah 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 blah. So anyway, he was
21.
21, and he was in an accident. He got thrown from the truck, and the truck rolled over him, and he died. So I want you to take that "I've got time" stuff, and I want you to sit on it, because it's not true. You don't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, that was a hard phone call to make, because a few of my soldiers thought he had died, asked me to check into it because I was a sergeant. I did get the information. I couldn't
Give it.
So I can't begin to tell you, that I've got time because you're younger. Toss that crap. It's not true. Okay, you don't know that. You have no guarantees. So the sooner that you sit down with your spouse, the better. But the silliness I'm talking about is not necessarily thinking you got time. It's I've seen things like leaving money to the ex-spouse. I don't care how well you get along. Never do that. Never, ever. Because people change with money. Maybe you guys are following the recent Oliver Anthony baloney, where that guy, his wife took off with the money, because money changes people. It can change people. That's why Brenda was suggesting a trust to your kids, right? Now, I've also seen people leave money to the what would be the step parent in this case, their spouse. And that is perfectly acceptable, because that's the person that you said "I do" to, and you said "I trust my life with, and I will lay down my life for." Now, if you don't trust that spouse, then there are other videos of ours that you need to watch.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but the point is we are a blended family. Okay, so one of our sons is going to be the executor. The other sons know that, and there are stepsons and sons. Okay, there are stepsons, adopted sons, and sons in this mix. They all know it. They're all okay with it, and whatever needs to happen will happen according to what we say, and we will be very laid out about it. They know that. They know that. So it's very important that you sit down and you be as detailed as possible. If you want an exact split amongst things, then be specific in the amounts.
Yeah.
If at all possible. All right? If there's something else you want to happen, be specific. Specific, the more, and then talk to your lawyer. The lawyer is going to tell you whether something's too specific, not specific enough. Make sure that it meets what you want. Now, make sure it meets legally what needs to happen, but make sure it meets exactly what you want at the same time. That's what you're paying the lawyer for. And I would actually highly suggest that you not do these legal online, like LegalZoom. I'm not knocking LegalZoom at all. I'm just saying that this is too important to leave to chance.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Get a lawyer, sit down, get a lawyer, and do what you need to do. Go ahead.
And that brings up another conversation that we need to have as well. When it comes to adoption, if you adopt your stepchild, you do need to know, and you do need to go over that with your lawyer, because in some states, when a child is adopted, the previous family they don't have any, they can't inherit anything from that set of grandparents or parent or whatever. And so know what's going to happen if there is an adoption.
Yeah, and be very, you need to talk to your kids about it. Now, what if you have really young kids? Well, you don't need to talk to really young kids about it, okay? I'm talking about if you've got teenagers.
Yeah.
All right, I'd say 14 and above. Sit down and just have a general discussion with your kids. Give them hey, this is what we're planning, okay? And then they're going to go back to whatever they were doing and forget the conversation. But you had the conversation. They can't say they didn't know, okay? Because it's very important that you're transparent on it. So, so we've covered a lot of things here. One of the things I really want you to keep in mind is for you to treat, so many hurt feelings happen in this area before the spouse even passes. One guy wants to leave all the money to his mom and not his wife. Dumb. That's dumb. It's dumb open your Bible. It's dumb on many levels. Dumb. Yeah. Don't do that. Okay? Your spouse is your person. That's why it says the two shall become one flesh. Not the two shall become one flesh until my mom comes over. Okay? That's not what it means. All right? So things that we would guide you pretty sternly on, but not tell you have to do, your spouse should always be the person who does it. And if you don't trust them, then you guys need counseling.
Yeah.
Okay? All right? That's just a straight up. I would try not to leave anything specifically to your kids monetarily, primarily because you don't know what they're going to do with that. And so you want to put it in a situation that if you were still alive, they would have the opportunity to use it wisely and not just blow it all, because look at the statistics for people that win the lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah. And try to think forward many years as much as possible. I see a lot of people that will put it in a trust that their kids can't touch till
30 or
till 30.
Yeah.
Or till after they've graduated college. I wouldn't suggest that one, because there are so many different ways to educate. None of our boys went to college. Well, except one. But no, he's one of the ones that doesn't talk to us anymore. But the three boys that we still have avid contact with, they're all in the trades, okay? And they're all doing well. And I would never, ever tell a kid that you got to wait till you finish college.
No.
If we had pigeonholed them like that, that's not going to benefit your kid. If you're going to do something like that, just try to think it through, So like an age when they're mature enough, or, take your pick. But really sit down, really be detailed. Did you have anything else?
No. Nope, that's all.
Okay, what we didn't cover right quick is it's not just about money, it's about legacy. Try to take the emotions out of it. You're trying to leave something to your kids, not only to help them, but to continue your family name, to do what needs to be done. To push the family name even further in a positive light. And you want to do that as fiscally responsible as possible in passing. And while at the same time you're leaving legacy, make sure it's in a manner that they don't just remember the money, but they remember you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, your time can never be gotten back once you're gone. And so spend those moments.
Yeah, don't wait for a crisis to force your hand. Don't, don't write it down, set it in a corner, and then never do anything about it. Are lawyers expensive? Yes. But this is one time.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the one time. And there are some lawyers that have like a package that they'll sell you so you know up front what it's going to cost to get this will done.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll give you a kit. You'll fill it out, and then sometimes you don't even have to go in. You just give it to them, they take a look at it, and if it's all working and you don't have any questions, they can get it done. But get it done sooner than later. Let the important people in your life know where that's stored.
Yep.
Don't just store it digitally. Okay, I understand that this is the age of AI. Keep a physical copy.
Yep.
Keep a physical copy. Put it in a fireproof safe. I don't care where you put it, but keep it somewhere, all right? And I wouldn't necessarily suggest a safety deposit box, because if a bank ever closes down,
Yep.
the first thing you lose is access to your safety deposit box. So somewhere secure, somewhere safe, somewhere it's not going to get burned up. I'm not talking about between your mattresses. Okay, keep a physical copy. I don't care how many digital copies you keep, but keep a physical copy, or even keep a second copy if the person who's going to be your executor is a relative or something. Keep a physical copy with them,
Yeah.
as well as with yourself. Anyway, sorry, I can't say that enough. Keeping track of it's important. You spend all that money and time, keep track of it. So that's all.
Yeah. And second marriage estate planning is so, so important. So do it now. Don't wait. And that's all. So if you have never even thought about this, then now is the time. Don't wait for the crisis and that sort of thing. Now, I have an exciting announcement. We are 2 weeks away from the release of the Blended Family Momentum Accelerator Program. And so we've been talking about it here and there, but we're going to start talking about it more because it's really exciting and it's just really going to help a lot of people. So,
And not everybody will be able to take it.
correct.
So you're aware.
Yeah.
And it's not a negative thing. There are some people, it's going to be available to those who really need it. But we'll put out more about that in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we will have, a bunch of information at the bottom of each video once it's released. But around July 30th, 2025 is around when it's going to be released. So we're super excited. We can't wait to share that with you, to those of you that we let into the program. And so, yeah, that's all. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. So with that, we're going to leave you, and we thank you so very much for being here. We'll see you again soon. Bye.